Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Anvil. And tonight I am joined. Here we go with the ADHD talk tonight. Sorry, folks. It's been a long day for both of us. I am joined again with my competitor from Forge and Fire, the master, John Wigger, number one champion.
How's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty good. Long time no talk. I see some great things, like we said, just visiting before we started, seeing some great things going on. Just got back from Uganda for
Yeah,
your
I did.
probably what, fifth, sixth trip?
Yeah, I believe it's my fifth. It could be my sixth. It could slip my mind a little bit. It's been so much back and forth here the last few years. I've had a lot of kids and a lot of stuff in between, so it's easy to lose track of things.
As they say, burning the candle at both ends, more or less. That's good. Keeps you on
Yeah,
your
or
toes.
yeah, got too many got too many irons in the fire, as they say.
Oh, been there, done that. Doing production, doing, a basic knife, kicking them out pretty good. Trying to go back into full time again. Last year was pretty rough. Had to work for somebody else. So had to relearn to do that, and it didn't work out too well. So, but I digress. But John, tell us a little bit who you are. Give us a little bit of your background and how you got started, and then feed it into tell us about your ministry in Uganda and teaching.
Yeah, so believe it or not, about probably 2 years before I was on Forge and Fire with you, I started blacksmithing. So I wasn't doing it near as long as the people I was competing against, but I was a lot younger than everyone, so I think I had a little advantage with our competition we had there because it's so hot, and
Oh, good
I'm
Lord, it
used to
was.
Missouri humidity, so I was used to that weather and all that, and so it worked out well for me. But I started off doing the traditional blacksmithing. A lot of fireplace tools and pokers and meat turners and spatula. The traditional blacksmithing stuff, bottle openers, all that. And I just how I started, a guy gave me an anvil, and I thought, I got an anvil, I should probably get a forge and learn how to do this stuff. So I had a guy that lived down the street from me that used to work for a blacksmith named Tom Clark, and a lot of people in the blacksmithing world know Tom Clark.
I was gonna say that name sounds awfully familiar.
He was from Potosi, so he's about 20 minutes from where I live. He used to have the Ozark School of Blacksmithing. He
Okay.
did a lot of training with like Uriah Hoffey, which is another big name in the traditional blacksmithing world. So a gentleman that worked for him um, ended up he worked for him full time, and then that's who I kind of apprenticed through and learned from. And we started doing shows and everything, and everyone asked, do you make knives? You ever seen Forged and Fire? Do you make knives? And all those questions, all those answers to those questions were always no. Like I never made knives, and I didn't really know what Forged and Fire was until people started talking about it. So I watched it a few times. I was like, okay, that's what it is. So eventually, after people kept asking for it enough, I started making a few knives and put them on Instagram and stuff. And then I had a producer reach out to me and asked if I wanted to be on Forge and Fire, which at the time I thought, well, this is a scam. Like who? I haven't been even making knives that long. I probably have 5 or 10 knives under my belt. And so she asked, and I ended up looking into her, and she was a casting producer for Forge and Fire. So I responded and said, yeah, I'd be interested. So we did the whole interview process and all that, and she ended up telling me that they're going to have me on a show. She didn't know when, but I got accepted to be on a show.
Nice.
So she acted like it might be a while. So I was just kind of put on the back burner, patient, and it wasn't much longer, like a few months. They ended up calling me and said, "Hey, can you be out here in 2 weeks? We have a show that we had a person drop out of, and
Same.
we need a fill in." And I think I think maybe even Tim too. I think this is kind of just like a
I think all
spontaneous
three of us
thing.
were up. We had a guy lopped out. We need to, yeah,
Yeah.
sign me up.
Yeah, so like, can you be out here in 2 weeks? I'm like, yeah, I can make it work. And it's a 2 week commitment when you go on the show. So I'm a very competitive person, and my mindset
I
going
found
in the
that
show
out.
is I'm going to whatever I got to do to win this thing, I'm gonna do it. So um end up
Shaving an
going.
anvil in your chest.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm known for doing that kind of stuff too.
Which behind the scene, the really weirded Will out. He's especially when the last one at the end there when you it will
It
kill.
will kill, yeah.
Now, who
Yeah.
did that? My business partner did. You let another man shave your back?
I don't remember all that. You
You
have a good
don't?
memory.
Oh,
Now that you say it, now that you say it, I do. I remember it now.
yeah, it. I can. I've got. I guess I've been blessed with a weird memory. I can remember the useless information that is possible out there, I think.
Yeah.
So, but
So
go ahead.
we,
Sorry.
yeah, no, you're good. Talk as much as you want. Yeah, we did this together, so you need to remind me of some stuff.
Yeah,
So we
not wrong.
ended up going on the show. We kind of met each other when we were picking up at the airport. I
Airport.
think it
Yep.
was remind me of that. Was
Yeah.
it
You were in the. We landed about the same time. I think you got the car with Quest before I did, and you
yeah,
guys were
Quest?
looping around because I went to the wrong pickup spot and.
Yeah, you would.
Well, that's the first time I've been in the JFK airport at New York. The first time I went back east. I mean,
Was
that's
it JFK or was it LaGuardia that we flew
LaGuardia
into?
is where we flew out the second time, I believe, when we got
Okay.
back for the final
Oh
round.
yeah, yeah, because we had to go back. Okay, yeah, I
Yep.
forget that. Was Tim already in the car? Because I know Tim rode with us. Or who? No,
Ken
the other
Hall. Ken Hall was there.
Ken. Yeah,
We
so
didn't
Tim
meet
didn't
Tim
ride.
until the next morning.
Yeah, Tim was already there. Okay. So we meet in the car, and we're meeting for the first time, so we're figuring each other's names. So we're looking each other up on Instagram and seeing, what our competition looks like. And I remember seeing Ken's stuff, and I was like, oh boy,
Yep.
man,
Yep.
he
Yep.
produces
I'm like,
some
oh, we're done.
he produces some good stuff. So,
Amazing stuff. I stalk
but
his
how
page
old
every
was he
now
at
and
the
then
time?
for ideas.
He was in his 60s then, I think, wasn't he?
I
Or
believe
late
so.
50s.
Late 50s. Yeah, late 50s. I think he's in his 60s now. I think he's
Yeah.
a, at the time he was an electrician by
No,
trade.
he was retired.
He was
He
retired?
was retired, I think. Yeah.
No,
I think
because
he
he
was
was
just
on a 2 week business trip. Because again,
well, you remember better than me.
I don't ask me why I remember this conversation. I really do. I can remember sitting in the car and everything. And I think he was just gotten off a 2 week business trip because I think he was some kind of electrical engineer. If I remember,
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just down at a power plant. And he says the best thing he's looking forward to is going home. He's been on the road for 2 weeks, so
Yes. Okay. That's ringing a bell now. Well, I think he's retired now, and I think it was not too long after.
yes, I
I'm
think you're
pretty
correct.
sure that I wasn't even 30 then. I think I was 29, maybe.
Oh, you're still a
Either
kid.
29 or right at 30.
I'm
And
40. I'm 40 now, so yeah, there you go.
yeah, I'm 30, 35, turned 36 on Halloween.
That's right. You're not that far away from me. I forgot you're like 4 years younger than me.
Yeah. So, we meet in the car and then we all meet up the next morning to get in the van to head to the set. And then we're really kind of introducing because Tim's there now. We're all riding in the van together. I remember, you
Amanda
know, I
driving.
think I
Mom.
think everyone was sharing their like what they do, how long they've been
Yep.
doing it, what they normally make. And I remember it went to you and you said your spiel of you've been doing it since you're like straight out of the womb, I think.
Pretty much.
And I've been doing it 2 years. I think, Ken did it for I think it was over 10 years he's been doing hobby stuff. And then Tim, Tim has been doing it for a long time also. And he was building other things. But we're just all telling our blacksmith story and Tim gets more in depth on um that I think he said he was having some problems with one of his businesses at that point. He probably should have stayed home, but he
It was
knew he
the
was
I believe it
he's
was
been
the
praying about it. He knew he was supposed to come here.
yep.
And then he started talking about his mission. He has a organization called the Reckoning International, where he has some mission stuff in Africa. He has a thing called Forest of Hope, where they plant trees that help orphans go to school. And he has a thing called Missions for Character, where they help, people start small businesses. And then he was talking about Bamba Forge. And Bomba Forge is an opportunity he had that a guy had some at-risk orphan young men that he didn't know what to do with. And not knowing what Tim did, Tim was in Africa and he stopped by to have a meeting with this guy, and he was telling him about, what the area was like a long time ago. He said this area is filled with blacksmiths and this and that, and I have these at-risk orphan young men that I would like to teach them a skill and so they can learn and provide for their families. And the guy said, I thought about like a blacksmith shop or something like that. And Tim was like, whoa, 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 hold on. He's like, I do blacksmithing and make knives. And the guy had no idea. And so Tim started with the guy, Bamba Forge, and they took these young men and started teaching them blacksmith. Tim would go every year, a couple times a year, and teach these guys these things. And now this has probably been it's between 10 and 15 years ago.
I was gonna say
So
it's
I was
been
kind of like taken
almost 20
back by
years.
that story. We're all just talking about us, and then Tim goes to Africa and teaches these orphans how to make knives
We're
and
like,
earn a living
well,
and stuff.
we picked the winner. I
Yeah.
remember that. And it's funny when he said that because the few days before I was flying out, I was doing a little research, trying to see what the pull up episodes or little clips of what's been going on in the previous episodes, what they've been doing, because I didn't have cable at the time. And it just happened, and I don't know how it pulled up, but it pulled up this article about the what Tim was doing in the Bama Forge and the Reckoning charity. And I got reading it and everything. I read that article, and I actually read it on the plane too. And then all of a sudden, I hear the name of. Wait a second! I pull out my phone, pull that up. It's like that's you. So it's kind of, it
Yeah.
was kind of a very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't
So
believe in coincidence. I guess you could say.
no, and I'll get into that a little more, how I think it wasn't a coincidence. Um so we go to the first round in the forge that day, and we find out that we're blacksmithing outside. We have to build our own forge. It's 100 and what was it, like
Six.
110 heat index that day, I think.
It was 106 degrees, straight sunlight, and
It was noon. We were on blacktop, and we
yep,
got a 3,000 degree forge, 4,000 degree forge
four
going
of them
beside us.
running
Yeah,
running coal.
yeah, and it was,
It was
and I'm a type one
92%.
diabetic. I'm type one diabetic, so my blood sugar was getting low. I was literally drenched from my head, and my boots were like everything in between were drenched. I would get like I would have the guy bring me water and half Gatorade, and I would take like a drink as much as I could. Then I'd pour the rest on my head. I'd say, "All right, I'll take another." I remember and I just kept going and going and going, and it
Yeah, you're in a
was,
machine over there, ting, ting, ting. I'm over here, high country desert, Utah boy here.
dry,
Still
dry heat.
dry heat. I'm used to dry heat. I mean, humidity comes in, we're all,
Yeah,
usually the only time we get any real humidity is when it rains, and I'm literally swimming. It was 92% humidity, and what again? It was. I remember looking it up. It was 106 that day. I think the index. Plus, we had the cement wall. We're kind of
yeah,
cubbied in.
blacktop. Yeah,
Yeah, and the judges are over there underneath their little on their table underneath the little sheet with their little fan blowing on them,
yeah,
all comfy like.
yeah. And yeah, so it was, everyone always asked me like how hard was that? I was like, oh, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And they're like, well, really? I'm like, yeah, I've done, I did back at that time, I was doing CrossFit and doing all kinds of stuff. But I was like, no one in their right mind would be like, oh, it's a 115-degree heat index today. I think I'm gonna go out, stand out on the blacktop at noon and fire up a 4,000-degree forge and swing a hammer on a piece of 2-inch metal for 3 hours. No
Oh,
one who does that. Like
yeah. It,
you wouldn't do that. It just doesn't happen.
I literally walked off the stage. I looked down. I said, I got to go cool off. They had that big fan inside. I'm
They hooked you guys up to like
completely.
some oxygen, didn't they?
I sucked the tank dry. My pulse, and I again I remember these weird facts. My pulse was like 155. My blood pressure was like 170 over
Oh
35.
my gosh.
My blood pressure was up there. I mean, they had this big fan. They turned that on. I sucked the tank dry. They had to hook another one. About that time, Tim comes in,
Yeah,
and Tim's fingers, because you get epoxy because
yeah,
you're not getting enough oxygen.
yeah,
Anyway, his fingers are like turning different directions, which that was a learning curve. And when Doug and Will come in, and I didn't know at the time they were medics,
yeah,
and when Doug had the look on, I was like, "Are we calling the ambulance on these guys?" And Will's like, "Well, let's
I
change their shirts, cool them off, get them back out there," and it worked.
I think there was one point where I looked over. I think I was the only one out there still swinging.
You was, you was, and this guy's over there. And we started out with a 12-inch long, inch and a half bar of
1095.
1095.
Yeah,
First
nice.
time I've ever touched 1095. I've never played with it, so I
Some
had
hard
no idea
stuff.
what I was playing. I mean, I've done a one, but
It
not 10.
doesn't move very easy.
No, not by hand. And I was hoping to try out Big Blue because I grew up on little giant trip hammers, never a power an air hammer.
Yeah.
So I was excited, like never used a propane forge, and they get in. Oh, you're gonna build coal forges. Where's the challenge in that? They looked at me like I used to do stuff like that as a kid.
No, yeah, I was looking forward to using that stuff. Fortunately, the second time I went, I got to use all that stuff.
I
But
haven't caught that yet. I got to
yeah,
buy the new. I've got to buy the new season. I'm still
yeah,
curious because Nate was on and they held his. He had to be quiet for 3 years before they showed it. But
yeah. Oh wow. But anyway, so we all met each other. We went and we did the first round, and I felt pretty good about the first round. So,
not me.
I re that night I really got to thinking about, the stuff Tim was talking about. Because, I mean, what causes Tim to go there is his faith in being a Christian and wanting to share the gospel also with these guys and doing all that. And I'm a Christian also. I'm a
Amen.
deacon at my church. But at that point, I was kind of helped out with the youth ministry at our church, and I never felt called or thought about going overseas and doing any types of missions because I did quite a bit at home, and I thought, I'm doing what I need to do here. People here need help too, and I just never had the opportunity or want, like, there's nothing appealed to me to need to go over and do stuff. But after hearing what Tim had to say, I'm like, man, that's exactly what aligns with everything I believe, like wanting to help people learn skills and and blacksmithing and going over and doing that stuff. So I called my wife that night and was kind of, talking to her about it and telling her how cool it was. And then the next day, well, not everybody knows this, but on the next day you go back. It's all strict competition. It's timed. Everything's like you see on TV. But you go back the next day and you work on putting on the handles and stuff. So it's still within the time frame. They stop the time. You go back the next day, do it. You got to put on your old nasty clothes again. Um,
Yeah, the good thing they had the extra clothes because I kept mess my.
So go back the next day and we have the handle round. And man, I felt like I was really ahead going into that round. And then I kind of felt like I fell back there. I had some problems with some of the handles breaking on me. And I started to end up running out of time at the end. I just kind of had to throw stuff together. So
Well, at least you didn't break a knife in the middle
that's
of
true.
recording live and watching Dave at a corner of my eye scream over his table, "Don't do that!"
Yeah.
And and I broke it, and I literally froze. And I know we all talked about not, try not to cuss on the show because we've seen the show before, and it's beep beep beep. It's like, come on, bitch, keep it friend. And I'm in back of my head just screaming everything
Yeah.
you could possibly think, and then
Well,
also
I'm going to talk about that here later too about the cussing on the show because something happened to me on the second
you
show
were
I was
saying
on with
you were
them.
said something about that,
Yeah, I kind of posted something about it on Facebook a few times, but I'll get into it a little bit too.
and that's
So, so the second round, we all do it. I kind of feel like I get caught up with on the second round. Like I felt like I was ahead the first round, and then I was like, after the second round, I was like, when we went to the hotel that night. So after you finish the handles and stuff, you go to the hotel again, and then the next day they judge the knives. Like I said, it's all like you see on TV, but they cut up the time, like it's all timed.
hmm.
Uh, so we go back to the hotel that night, and I was feeling pretty discouraged because I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen now. Like I felt good the day before, now I don't know what's gonna happen. I remember us walking through the hotel. I think you might have been ahead of us or something, maybe already went to the room.
I went in the room with my tail tucked between the legs because
Yeah.
I was talking to a close friend of mine, and of course my head wasn't really in the game. I was kind of focused on other things at the time, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, women will do that to you, I guess. But yeah, go ahead. Anyway,
So Tim's ahead of me, probably like 10 feet. I can picture, I remember this part because it's so impactful in my life now. But Tim was about 10 feet ahead of me walking through the hotel, and I said, "Hey Tim," kind of like, "Hey, hold on a second." And he turned around, he's always got that chipper voice. "Yeah, buddy, what's up?" And I said, "Hey, I need to talk to you for a minute." And he's like, "Yeah, what's going on?" I said, I said, "I've been thinking." I said, "I was praying last night and talking to my wife, and I said, I feel like I'm supposed to go to Africa with you." And like he started tearing up, man, and he said, "John," he said, "You remember how I told you the story of me um of me not supposing to be here because I had a problem with one of my businesses. I shouldn't have came." He said, "I've been praying about it." Um, and he was supposed to be okay. So I got called on the episode early. He was supposed to be on an episode like a year previously, but it snowed and they canceled his episode. Well, they called him when he called us to be on this show because they were like, "We'll catch you up on another show. This one got snowed out, but we have people that drop out. We'll pick you up on another show." So he wasn't supposed to be on the show either. So they put him on the show. And he started tearing up and he said, "John," after I asked him if I could go to Africa with him, he said, "John," he said, "that's why I'm here." He said, "I've been praying that I would meet another Christian blacksmith that would want to go to Africa with me and teach." So, that it just hit me hard, like I wasn't supposed to be on this episode. Tim wasn't supposed to be on this episode. He was praying that he would meet another Christian, which there are Christians that are on Forge and Fire, but I would say majority of people that are on Forge and Fire are probably not Christians compared to Christians, maybe. And I have no idea. I'm just thinking in my head. But what are the chances of Tim supposed to be on a different episode, me supposed to be on an episode, Tim praying that he would meet another Christian I'd want to go to Africa with him, and then we both happened to be. And I approached Tim and asked him if I can go to Africa. He didn't come to me and say, "John, do you want to go to Africa with me?" It's just one of those things that I think
It was meant to be. It was
yeah,
definitely. The next morning we were down to breakfast, and we were having breakfast together, and you guys were sharing talking about it, and I could feel you could feel the spirit.
yeah.
And
I
listen,
think it was.
I was a
I
little bit.
mean,
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit jealous, but I was in no position to even do anything like that. I mean, even
yeah,
today, it's like, what would I teach? I mean, I teach knife making classes,
yeah,
not so much blacksmithing. And
yeah,
again, I would love to go. It would be an awesome opportunity if I ever got that blessing to go with you guys one of these times.
yeah,
But listening to you guys talk and everything else, it was definitely something there that I felt that this was supposed to be. This is
yeah.
how you guys are going to meet.
It was for sure an answered prayer. And when I got up to the hotel, and so Tim's like, "Absolutely, you're going to Africa with me." So I get up to the hotel room that night, and I'm still pretty discouraged from that second round. And I call my wife and tell her about it. And my wife's a good Christian lady and supports me. And I have six businesses, and she supports everything that I do. And I remember that night she said, "John, I don't think you were meant to go on Forge and Fire to win." Because I was upset that because I didn't think I was going to win. I tell you how competitive I am. I am. And she said, "I don't think you went on Forge and Fire to win Forge and Fire." She said, "I think you went on to meet Tim Troyer to go to Africa with him. Like I think that's why you're there and how this worked out in the plan God had for your life." And I was like, "You know what, you're right." And that gave me a peace, and everything. And we go on the next day and um ended up working out well
Of course,
in my
I'm
favor.
I'm panicking and well, there's no way I'm going to make this. There's absolutely no way. I'm going to
Yeah.
pass it. They ain't going to test.
And
Uh,
to tell you the truth, I mean, Tim's knife looked better than both of ours. I
that ain't no kidding.
I was I was surprised that I
And
was
mine was
surprised.
welded.
I thought it was between me and you who was going, and I was surprised when Tim.
I
My knife performed really well in that testing in that first round, so I felt pretty good, but you just never know.
I honestly didn't think they were going to test mine because I figured they were going to like, hey, Mike, sorry, we just don't feel this is safe. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And when they tested, I'm like, okay, here we go. And I broke it. When I broke it, like I said, I was screaming in my head, and all of a sudden everything went quiet, and then I heard something in the back of my mind, just weld it. And don't worry about that time. You come over, dude, just weld it up. Roll with it. And
Yeah.
then you gave me that little extra, brought me right back to where I need to be. So I'm over on the welder doing a little bit. I went and beveled it and about, and history's past. So apparently I can weld pretty good.
So what also you don't see on the show is like we have a lot of time where we spend together in the green room,
That
because
little
when
tiny
they
room.
set up the pig and they set up the test, they have to test each person's knife, and then they send you in the green room in between. So you might be sitting there for 45 minutes or an hour waiting for them to set up the next, or we're sitting in there when we're doing our interviews, we're waiting for our turn to interview. You're sitting there for lunch for 2 hours because they go do whatever they do. There's more time you're sitting around on set than you're actually working. Like what was it? The first one, I think they gave us 4 hours because we had to build the forge. But we were probably there, what, 10 or 12 hours?
Well, we actually give it, yeah, we were there. I mean, their lunchtime was
So
4 o'clock in
so
the
you're there
afternoon.
working 4 hours, but you're there 10 or 12 hours. And then the next day we only worked for 3 hours and we were probably there 10 hours. And then the next day we worked for another probably 2 or 3 hours and you're there probably for 8 or 10 hours. So
They they actually had to give us an extra hour because only one guy had his knife done. The other three of us did not. Can
I don't know
anybody
how much
guess
we're
who had his knife pretty over there just pinging on it to make it look like he was busy?
and
That
I
would
don't know
be the man, John.
and I don't know how much we're supposed to talk about that, but I think Forge and Fire is
The
over. So
show's over with, so
they
they
don't
tore down
care
the
anymore.
set and everything. So it's
Yeah.
Forge and Fire is after this when they conclude, it's done. They're not gonna
Yeah.
they don't care.
No, I don't think so. Whenever I went, I could tell it was kind of winding down. But
But
we had a lot of time to get to know each, like, I mean, 20, 30 hours probably we just sat in a room, just
mhm.
hanging out and talking. And, me and Tim, we had a lot to talk about our faith and stuff. And it was cool for having you in the room because you grew up a little different than how I grew up and how Tim grew up. And, you being in the room and being able to hear us talking and us hear you and your perspective on things. I think that that time with you, that kind of changed your life a little bit, didn't it?
Oh yeah. I was in a kind of a weird. I just recently, the previous divorce out of about like 4 or 5 years. Well, 26, yeah, about 3 years. 3 years after a divorce. Um, Kind of dating a gal, and it was kind of going south, and of course, me not wanting to let it go.
Yeah.
But it really inspired me to go a little further and start helping out a lot of people a lot more and seeing what you guys and reading up on what you guys are doing and what Tim was
Yeah.
doing. And yeah, I mean, especially
Did you grew up in the Mormon faith, didn't you? Kind of.
uh yes, but no. LDS is what I normally call. I grew up in it. The family is predominant LDS. My
Yeah.
parents, I would say, were libertarians before libertarian was cool. I went
Yeah.
to a Baptist church. Learned a lot of my scripture at Baptist church. I do believe a little bit in the gospel of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Me and the LDS church stand apart due to stuff that happened during 2020. And it's like, I'm not going to follow the corporation who's going to bow to the government, not God. So
Yeah.
I consider myself a man of faith. Me and my daughter are going to start attending a local church, a Christian church here soon. Probably hit it once or twice a month. Um,
So
I
what kind of church is that there? Like just like a
it's like
just like a Bible
I
church?
think it's Bible. Yeah, it's Bible, but Baptist. They're I know the pastor. He's a really great guy. He's also a teacher, a
Yeah.
football coach. Great guy. Known him for the last few years, and he's going to kind of the church that don't go out there to bring people in. We're here for those people that need a place to go.
Yeah.
We're not going to say, "Hey, you're doing your faith wrong." No, we're here. Come pray. Let's talk the word of God. Let's talk about Jesus
Yeah.
and save.
Yeah, and I don't know a lot about the LDS stuff, but I think their view on what me myself believe about Jesus Christ and what they believe may be a little
It's
different
pretty
on those
much
aspects.
more or less along the same long. It's there's not much a lot of difference between being Baptist and LDS. I mean, They do temple work. I think we're a little different. It's temple work, temple marriages,
Yeah,
sealings of the family and such like that. I think it's a little bit more in depth, I guess you could say. I mean, again, that's up to however you want to believe or believe into it. I think what Joseph Smith did was it was inspired of God, but I think man took it the wrong direction, in my opinion.
yeah,
If that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. And I think just like the salvation part of it, we believe, Jesus died on the
Baptism,
cross.
Jesus Christ is the only way back to the
Yeah.
Almighty.
And the
Um,
the Trinity, Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, and that
yep,
I believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for my sins and my salvation, and that's the price he paid for my sins. So, me
and
believing in him,
amen.
um, brings me the it's the gospel. It doesn't matter your past.
Yep.
Um, if you believe in him, you have the
And
eternal life.
and that's
Um,
pretty much along the lines of the LDS. I mean, there's today's, like I said, I separated myself from the church due to a lot of the policies coming down from the corporate end of things, and it's like nope, sorry, Christ is the head of the church, not government and not lawyers.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
That might make a few people mad, but you know what? Eh,
Well, I mean, they're entitled to that. They can do a podcast on what they want.
exactly.
But
Um,
no, yeah, it well, it was cool because just not knowing the LDS and what exactly what they are. Me and Tim spend time, you know, praying. Like we pray before our meals and we would do that. And then I remember there was one point where you said, "Hey, I'll pray," and that was cool to see, and I remember you praying when we were in that room, and um,
and that's something that I've never been the one to stand out in the crowd or stand up in front of everybody. I'm only one that, oh, can you come back? Nope, gone the other direction.
yeah,
So being on TV and being recorded, that was way out of my comfort zone.
yeah,
And I just, like you're saying, it was just like, you know what? I felt just like, hey, you got to say the prayer. You're the one that needs to say it, not anybody else. And that's why
yeah.
I asked that.
And we had a bunch of good conversations. I remember you saying, like you said earlier, like I remember you saying, when I get back, I'm gonna look into this a little more, and we prayed, and you said I remember you said I'm gonna do some searching and figure this stuff out, and seeing your posts and the stuff you've been sharing and the things you've been doing, it looks like you did do a little bit of that, and I'm proud of you for that. That's
Well,
awesome.
thank you. I try. I probably not a probably went a roundabout way, I guess you could say, but
Well, it says in the Bible, "Come as you are." So I mean,
yep.
it's called a thing called sanctification. You're always working towards being more like Christ, and you don't come as you are. You aren't perfect when you come. That's always it's always a working thing. When you get mastery over a sin, something else pop up. So you're never going to be sinless. So
That ain't
we're
no
never
kidding.
we're
You
never going
ever
to be Jesus Christ. So
have you ever felt like you're the iron in the forge sometimes, and you're like, all right, all right, all right. And I contacted Tim right before you guys went out to Africa, and I was like, oh, I need to message John too. And I read your post. I'm like, okay, I will get him on there.
yeah,
And that's why I messaged you immediately as soon as I read your post on things. So,
yeah.
and I want you to,
So yeah, and if people listen and they want to check out some of the stuff in Africa, that I'm Hawthorne Forge is my Facebook and stuff like that. So anyway, show got over all that. Tim, we made the trip happen. He had me come to Africa.
and he's being
Um,
humble, folks. He won the show.
yeah, I won the show, and that was Tim, we stayed in touch, and we stayed in touch with Mike a long time too. We kind of fell off a little bit, but
Well, you guys got really busy in what you were doing, and I didn't want to interrupt. I'm kind of one of those just like,
yeah,
hi, how you guys doing every now and then? So
yeah.
trying to, and I was kind of doing my
So
own thing, building the business up.
yeah, I went that first time, met all the guys, and realized, man, this is I'm supposed to be doing this. I felt like being there was a blessing for those guys, and it was a blessing for me seeing it, and like seeing how people live in Africa and what we take for granted here, and just going and having my quiet time with God in the mornings. Everything's just like slowed down over there. It's not rush, rush, rush like in the United States, and it
All
really
right, I'm
makes you
booking my
think
flight right
about,
now if that's the case.
yeah, it really makes you think about why are we doing so much, and like what are we working for, and what are we doing over here. It just kind of resets me every time I go over there, and able to teach these guys these things. They don't see a lot of comparison here, and every time I go, I teach them. I'm able to teach them a little bit something else. Like one time we teach them leather work. One time we went, showed them how to profile the edges a little bit better on their knife. Every time, last time I went, we worked on their handles and the transition kind of from the blade to the handle. Every time we go, we just tweak a little bit. But their knives are so good now that,
Oh, they
I
are
mean,
beautiful.
yeah, they just do such a good job. And a couple trips ago, we started another forge in Tororo.
That's what I
So
was going to
Bamba
ask you
Forge
about
is
that.
in
Thank you.
Kampala, and Kampala is the capital city of Uganda. So it's pretty busy. There's a lot of cars, a lot of stuff going on. Just in the 5 years I've been going, like the infrastructure, the airport and the highways have improved so much. Um, so the guys are getting really good. Tim thought, hey, we need to start another forge. So we started a forge in Tororo, which is about a 5, 6 hour vehicle ride from Kampala. So now when we go, I always spend time at both forges. So I'll spend like 2 or 3 days at Bamba Forge. I'll spend 2 or 3 days at Tororo. Last year we went and started the forge in Tororo, and it took, the guys at Bamba Forge 10 years to make the knives they're making now. Like to get like they're good quality knives. Anybody would love to have one. They're good knives. And the guys in Tororo just started last year, and they're getting pretty dang good. They're catching up with the guys at Bamba. But the reason why is because one of the things what Tim wanted to do when he started is he wants these guys from the first forge to go teach the guys at the second forge. So
They have a
every
mentor.
month, 1 week of that month, two guys from Bamba Forge go to Tororo and help teach there. So they've been able to learn all that stuff in a fast pace because Tim and me and the other guys that go, we only go once a year and able to teach those guys. So that like we'll go once and they'll work on that thing for a year that we taught them, and then you go the next year and then they work on that thing for a year. So it just takes a long time. Now we have people there that know how to do it and they can go teach. And that's the goal. And then the guys in Troy are going to go teach you guys somewhere else, and it just keeps building and building and getting bigger and bigger. But I've been going every year now. I think I missed 1 year because of I forgot what happened. There's something they had to switch forges, and then my wife had a baby right in the time that
I
we
think
began.
about COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then COVID happened. But last year I went twice, and I just got back a few weeks ago on this last trip. But just seeing the guys, and I have relationships with those guys now. It's just not they aren't acquaintances anymore. They're like friends.
Yeah. I've got a
And
few friend requests myself following.
yeah,
It's awesome to sit there and watch the
yeah,
pictures of them working and everything else.
yeah.
It's really amazing and inspiring.
So like
And
the guys that pick me up from the airport, they're like brothers, Emma and James, and Brian's our driver sometimes. I mean I know those guys, I know their families, I know their kids, and um my son got baptized a few weeks ago at church, and Emma, the forge manager there, he had a necklace made for my son with a date uh
nice.
engraved on it and his name, and it's just cool the relationships that I have there now. I consider Uganda my second home now, like literally. Like the hotel I go to, I know all the people there. It's a blessing for me to go, and I know it's a blessing for those guys for us to be able to come and help. A lot of the knives they make, they're great quality knives, but the average person in Uganda, they'll work 50, 60 hours a week and they might make $10 to $15 a week. Like it's crazy. Like they make like a tenth or less than that. Like it's a normal person in the United States, like if you got a good job, you're probably making
five, six
You know,
hundred a month.
you're making a lot more money in that. So, you know, just to go see the impact and you try to figure out, hey, how can we help change this culture or whatever? Because a lot of guys are like they drive motorcycle taxis around or they work in sugarcane fields and it's one of those things that everybody needs a job and everybody needs a place to work. If this person won't work for $3 or $2 today for 10 hours, fine, quit, and we'll have 30 people busting down the door to take this job because they don't have a job. And then a lot of times the jobs will give them food or a shelter or something. And some people are living in stick huts without electricity and food and water, so they can go to work and get paid a couple dollars and get fed and have air conditioning or running water or a bathroom. So it's just trying to teach them the skills makes them be able to make their own wages and not have to rely on this.
And
And
if
you
I
know
re
that's what that will force the employers to have to pay more because there's skilled jobs and you know it's going to take a long time to do anything, but you know we're just doing everything we can to help in the ways that we can. We know we can't fix the whole situation, but if everybody does their part and we're able to build this little thing that blossoms out like, you know, one forge turns into two, two turns into four, four turns into eight, and we're teaching other things there when we go too, if we can, and then it just grows into something bigger.
I remember Tim telling me it's not a handout, it's a hand up. We go
Yep.
there to help them out. We don't give them money, we don't give them to we give
Yep.
them tools and the knowledge to for they can provide for themselves. And
That's exactly.
a lot of it was if I remember correctly, if Tim was saying a lot of these boys are orphans. They plant trees, like the eucalyptus trees, if I remember correctly.
Yep. Man, you got a memory on you.
I know it's weird. Especially with I can't remember something I did 20 minutes ago. If I did that or did I close that door? Did I shut that off? But
You're
um,
like an elephant. Aren't elephants the one that have the good memories?
well, I'm pretty good size of guy, so probably so. I don't got the ears for it, so but I remember Tim telling us about they had a sawmill. They, you know,
Yep.
they take these trees so they can saw the lumber up. The lumber and that money's
Yeah.
used to take these kids and send them to
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. So I've been able to see that they call it Forest of Hope where they have the trees and you know they start them from nothing and those trees it's crazy how big they are now. They haven't cut them yet because they're trying to get them to their full potential to get the most money out of them. And so the guys at the forge they get paid from their knives that they produce. So like you said, it's not a handout, it's a hand up. And you know a lot of those knives get sold on knifeshipfree.com. I don't know if you've ever heard of that website, but
Sounds familiar. I think I've
yeah.
seen it a little bit, but
So Jay Rao over there, he goes to Uganda with us and he sells a lot
shout
of
out
the
to
knives.
Jay.
Yep, shout out to Jay. Knifeshipfree.com. Check him out. They best price for all knives. He sells, you know, Kershaw's and some custom knives and all that, but he's a big knife producer. And so a lot of the knives get sold on there, and that's kind of the best route for them to go. Because in Uganda, you know, you try to sell us in the tourist market or try to sell them to locals, you know, when people are only making $10, $12 a week, they can't afford to buy a knife. You know, you'd be selling for $3 and you know, I think the knives sell for close to $100 on Knife Ship Free, which is a great price for a custom knife, and the quality that they have is just as good. They're made out of 5160. They use like leaf springs in coil spring stuff they can get over there. But they're great quality knives. If it's a great budget friendly knife. I mean, good camp knives, chopping knives. They make all of it. But check it out if you guys are interested in one of the knives. Like I said, all the money from that goes straight back to paying their salaries, paying for their machines,
Right.
equipment, supplies. None of it goes to administration fees for the reckoning or anything. It all goes straight back to them. You know, if we can start if we're making enough money where they can start another forge or add another person to the team, that's what that money goes towards, and it's a
Nice.
cool deal. So going through all this time it really got me thinking. And, you know, I was going with the reckoning, and a lot of times the reckoning would try to help pay for my trip to go and stuff. And here the last couple times, I've been trying to raise the funds to go myself because I want the reckoning to be able to pay for other people to go, not me. I go every year. So I'm kind of transitioning what I do. Hawthorne Forge LLC is my business. That was my knife making. So I've started a 501(c)(3) NGO also, and it's called Hawthorne Forge Foundation.
I've seen
And
that. I was just, so I'm glad you brought that up.
yeah, so my mission in it is, I have a board, and our mission is that we want to train boys to become men, or train young people to become adults. And that training is um, skill training, whether it's blacksmithing, knife making, woodworking, uh, mechanic, fishing, hunting. We want to, these kids nowadays, they aren't becoming men. They're playing video games. They're on their
Mm,
smartphones. They're doing stuff. We want to get them out and teach them skills to become men. And while we're teaching those skills to become men, we're also wanting to teach them the manhood skills of being a good father, being a good husband, being a good community member, being a good employee. Because we just feel like a lot of those things are being missed in Africa and other countries, but also stateside.
yes.
A lot of these guys in Africa, they're having 6 kids by the time they're 20, and they never get married. And and if you're only making $10 a week, are you able to support those 6 kids? Because if you're a good father or you're a good husband, you need to be able to support your family. So don't be having all those kids and not being married, not be able to support those kids.
Exactly.
You shouldn't be having a bunch of kids if you can't support them. So the
A lot
last
of
year
people
when
in
I
this
went, I took
country
my
could
pastor.
need to learn that lesson too. Sorry.
Yeah. I took my pastor with me. I took another gentleman, elder in my church. And, we went and I was teaching them these skills, the blacksmithing skills. And then we'd have little get-togethers where we would teach the biblical principles, what God says a good husband should be, and what God says a good uh, father should be, and a good community member, and a good employee. So we're able to teach those things, and so that's my goal. I want to be able to go alongside other missions like the Reckoning. So I want to be able to say, hey, Reckoning, I see you're in Africa. I'd like to bring a group of guys and us to come help teach skills, teach blacksmithing, but also we're going to teach a little bit of this stuff on site, which the Reckoning does all that too. Don't get me wrong; they teach great proverbs, principles, and stuff like that to these people. But just something a little extra, and then we can do that stateside too. I want to have days where we have like a camp where we're teaching. We have stations where we're teaching skills, but as we're teaching those skills, we're also teaching manhood skills. And I've had talks with a couple people on doing classes like blacksmithing classes where it's like 2 hours. Like kids go to baseball practice every week, or kids go to dance or whatever, or gymnastics or football. Well, we have class out in my shop once a week, and you come for an hour and a half. We're gonna forge and learn stuff for an hour, and then we're gonna talk about becoming an adult and becoming a man for an hour, and what that looks like the real stuff. So that's kind of what Hawthorne Forge Foundation is. And we're doing other stuff with it too. But, I'm going to start looking for support here. And, people that have kind of the same mind, maybe they don't have the skills or the want to go overseas, but they're like, hey, that's a cool thing I could get behind. Like I said, we're a 501(c)(3) now. So
Awesome.
we're going to try to get a hold of businesses and individuals that want to help out with that. Because, with being the 501(c)(3), we can do those tax deductions and all that stuff, which makes it easier for some people to give for that type of thing. So,
That's awesome. That's kind of similar. I'm hoping that's my goal is to build my business up, not only just on the bladesmithing, but the knife classes. I've got an idea for a restaurant, but part of the new shop I want to do a production line so we can hopefully use that to kind of fund everything. But I want to do a section that's basically where I do the knife classes. So we can. I got a soft spot for veterans. My dad's a Vietnam veteran. I grew up around, so um, I grew up. I didn't really understand what dad was going through as a little kid and everything. Well, We weren't allowed to talk about it. We weren't allowed to, hey, dad's having a flashback time. You go play, stay out of the house, leave dad alone. That was back in the 80s and 90s, such like that. Well, after 9/11, my friends went to war. A lot of them come back and they had things today that my dad doesn't have. Vietnam veterans were literally, good luck. Don't wear your uniform. Don't tell anybody where you were at. And they were just sent home.
Yeah.
And we've seen the horrific damage of that. It's, the 22 salute, 22 salute's a charity I'm working with, Spirits and Coffee. And then they kind of, I like the line. I like how their mission is going. I kind of understand it. It's losing 22 soldiers a day. It's actually been reevaluated. They figure they're losing about 44 to 50 veterans a day
Wow.
to suicide. I kind of want to go that direction, kind of like what you're doing here. You bring that here to help with trouble. But I also got one day I had a feeling that I need to start not only work with the veterans, but I work with their families for kids that grew up with a veteran that, you know, you get your butt chewed out for leaving a tool in the wrong place and with my dad and everything, I never really understood it why you get very upset over a tool. Hey, we needed that to build this to so the family would be okay. And well, buddy of mine shared with his therapy and everything else. He was blowing up over his family over stupid stuff. He says it's simple stuff. It was just a mistake. You learn from it. Well, military, you make a mistake, people die, and that's what his line of thinking was. And after he was explaining that, it's like somebody flipped a switch for me. It's like, oh, okay. It's like now I understand why Dad would get upset to the point that he was literally shaking. And why? Because my dad's line of thinking is military. He's never been transitioned down. I mean, he's gotten a lot better with age and everything. He's tempered with age. Throw in there a kind of a bladesmith term there, tempering.
Yeah.
But I kind of what I want to do is kind of bring that. We're going to work with veterans, work with their family, work with kids, but also troubled youth. And like you're saying, let's teach them how to be a man because we got a lot of knowledge right here, but I think this has made us dumber,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
And we're seeing these young men are getting battered. Don't be a man. Don't be a man. And I'm going to bring Charlie Kirk into this. I followed him on and off for the last few years, mainly clips. I didn't really. I followed his stuff, but didn't follow his stuff until recently. That's what he was doing in there. Let's be a man, like you're saying, the gospel principles. Be a man. Be a husband. Go get married. Don't be stupid. Don't be heading to the bars. Like you're saying, don't have a bunch of kids you can't take care of. And that's something I hope my hope is and my goal is work towards that to have that like set up what you're doing. And I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little jealous of what you've been doing. It's like, you know what? I need to be a little bit more like John and really get after it. Yeah, so you're definitely next.
My goal is to be a little more like Christ. So if
There you
it's
go.
not me, you need to be a little more like him.
Well, you know what? I'm following your footsteps
Yeah,
too.
no,
You're leading the
hey,
path. So
it's good to have those people look up
leaders.
to. Like people looked up to Charlie Kirk and look at, we need to have those worldly examples of what we need to be living like. And I think he was one of those, at least for a lot of people, he was.
Have you ever thought you would see people around the world in prayer in our lifetime like that? The
As
next
a
day
yeah,
was in, I think, over 22 countries.
yeah,
It was, prayer,
yeah,
not, yes, but, it's Charlie Kirk, but it was all prayer. It was
yeah.
coming before the Lord and it was amazing. But anyway, back to you. I'm sorry, I kind of went off in as I say,
You're good.
squirrel moment there.
So, like I was saying, Hawthorne Forge is turning into Hawthorne Forge Foundation. So I don't do anything for profit anymore. Um, Everything that I make now goes towards my mission work as far as Hawthorne Forge Foundation, the stuff I just talked about. So now if I sell a knife or sell a forged item
Or
or
bottle water.
anything that I do, it goes towards me going to Africa or me bringing people with me or me doing something stateside for the Hawthorne Forge Foundation and the mission statement that we have with that. So it's a little change for me. I try to get out there. as much as I can. Like you said, I'm busy now. I still have a full-time job. I'm director of facilities at a school district. I have a
You can say you're still
locksmith
working for the
business.
school, huh?
Yep, I have a locksmith business. I have a event business, Ridge Events, where we do my business partner has a podcast. He has a pretty big podcast, and we have a website and we have other stuff. I have a property business, so I do. It's called Hawthorne
And I
Properties.
thought I had a lot of irons in the fire
And then
here.
I have Hawthorne Farms. We have a little farm that we have, and so I've been Hawthorne. It's Hawthorne Lock and Key, Hawthorne Farms, Hawthorne Properties, and then Ridge Events, and then I got a little mercantile in the town that I live in where we sell stuff. And like I said, Hawthorne Properties. So I have some rental properties, and then I have the Hawthorne Forge Foundation. Then I have, the school full time, and I have 3 kids under 6 years old, and I have a great wife that supports all this stuff that I do.
Uh,
It gets a little crazy sometimes,
I'll
but
bet. And like I said, I popped up. And I didn't realize you had the third baby, and I didn't. And like I said, Facebook doesn't really show a lot of stuff. Tell you
yeah, they kind
that
of
it popped up. It's
pick
like,
and
wow, 3 kids. Where did?
yeah, they kind of
I guess it's been that long.
pick and choose what they want to share. Um, but getting back to the other stuff, so we talked about that, and then so I got the opportunity to go back on Forge and Fire.
Yep. Let's tie that in.
Yeah, so I went. I guess it's been. I think it aired last October. I think is when it aired. I think it was like, shoot, I can't even tell you the
It's
episode. I
it's
think it was like
it's been over a year, I've heard.
season season 10, episode 11, or season
I
11,
think so.
episode 10, something like that. I've only watched it once, when it aired. I haven't watched it again. I need to watch it again. Because I've
Oh,
watched our episode, I need to show my kids. They don't probably my 2 youngest, they probably haven't even seen it. My son's probably seen it once. We haven't watched it in so long. They'd be like, "Oh, Dad's on TV." They probably wouldn't even know.
I
Uh,
remember watching your thank you speech there at the school there, and you brought my name up. Mike, good guy, crazy guy, but God, Mike, thank you, thank you. That's my life goal. I want to be remembered that weird guy that everybody never forgets. So
not
I
not
should have
weird,
done
just
this.
a
I
little
should have
crazy.
called you. I should have called
Hey,
you and
yeah,
congratulated you.
yeah, you're like one of those guys. I don't know if I'd want to meet in the alley by myself sometimes.
Hey, I'm a kitty cat. I'm meow.
But I think if you made you mad, you'd be a guy that wouldn't be afraid to use the knife that you make.
Um, I would agree with that. There's been a couple times in my life that I I remember in middle school I snapped. I remember turning, but I don't remember picking the kid up by the throat and putting him against the wall
See,
until
that's
I
what
came.
that's what I was trying to portray there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could. I've only done that twice in my life. I can remember vividly
And you
afterwards and everything. I pray I never have to do that ever
no,
again.
and you're not a really small guy either. I mean, your hands are like probably twice the size of my
Yeah,
hands.
I got big hands. It's hard to find gloves. I've given up fortune with gloves unless I'm making steak. So
So, so they asked me to come on the show again, and it was kind of like I haven't talked to them. I never really reached out to them. They just kind of reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming back on the show and like a Beat the Unbeaten Championship episode?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would." And in my mind, I was thinking, a lot's changed in my life from the first time, because it was 5 years, and then I've been to Africa 3, 4 times by that point, probably 4 times. And I kind of had a different mindset. My mind's changed a lot. I'm not near as competitive that I used to be. I was thinking, well, this can be a great opportunity for me to go be able to talk about my faith and talk about the stuff I do in Africa with Tim, maybe meet some people, talk to the judges about, hey, how can we bring light to this stuff in Africa, and like get some people talking about it, and get people interested in all this, and maybe raise some money or be able to do something for the mission on the Reckoning and for Hawthorne Forge Foundation and stuff like that. So that was my mindset going in. Every interview I made a point to talk about God, my faith, or Uganda. Like every interview. So you sit in there and they ask you all those questions, or they want you to talk on what's going on. I talk about God, I
Talk
talk
in
about
the present tense, and my mind's like, uh,
yeah, yeah. It always seemed like you're a little gone a little longer than us on our interviews. I
oh
think.
yeah, they had to coach me through the whole thing. I couldn't. I'm like, well, we're talking about it, aren't we? I'm a
Yeah.
little special, and not just because my mommy said I am.
And
Uh,
now look, you're the only one of us with a pod with their own podcast.
Mainly because it's something I've been kicking the can down the road. I teamed up with some buddies of mine who got me into podcasting. We did
Yeah,
like 6 episodes, teamed up with WB Creates, great guys, business minded people. Matter of fact, me and after Kevin kind of comes with the same background LDS, but we're gonna start going to this church together with our families and such.
that's
After Charlie Kirk, it's like it stirred him
awesome.
pretty
That's great,
good,
man.
and that's a video I wish I could unsee.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I think I might have watched it once, and that was enough for me. I didn't have to watch it again. It
I
was,
went back because it started coming out of a lot of conspiracy theories. Like, all right,
yeah,
no, my dad was a Vietnam vet sniper. My dad's a very good shot. He could really shot and touch somebody if he wanted to. Might have to put his glasses on a little bit and tune the scope in a little. But I've grown up around shooting. I can shoot okay. I'm not
yeah,
like my old man is. But talking with him and everything else, it's like, yeah, the range. And at first, I thought it came in a different direction, but I've seen different videos, and yeah, the conspiracy stuff out there. I think people are just trying to get likes and follows and everything else, and it's kind of disgusting. Um, but I've kind of trimmed a lot of people out of my life that were seem to be a little bit. They just like, okay, I'll pray for you, but we're going to go our different directions. I don't know if that's a good thing, but that's just what I had to do for me.
yeah. So yeah, that's all good stuff,
Sorry,
man.
I went off a tyrant there. Back on to, as you're saying, you're talking about,
So yeah, that I made it a point every interview I did, because that was my purpose on going to the show. I honestly, I was not worried at all about winning. I could care less about winning. I wanted to go and be the person I was competing against. I wanted to be able to share the gospel with him and talk about God, which I was able to.
awesome.
And I wanted to talk about as much as I could on TV. So I get on the show and I do all that stuff. I'm like, just do it. And it was a beat the unbeaten championship episode. So the first round was a little bit harder. I had to make like a nickel go my or something, Damascus, which mine was a lot easier than the guy I was going up against. And he was a young kid and just, I mean, I think he makes knives 5 hours a day, 7 days a week, just go getter, loves it. And I was at the point in my life where I get out there a couple, I try to get out there a couple times a week and do as much as I can. I had the knowledge to do it all, but he was just he fell he I mean he loved knife making. I like knife making, but this guy, yeah, he's like you. It's his life. It's what he does, and there's in my priority list on things I do. Knife making's on that priority list, but it's not, I got my faith, my family, my job, and knife making for me is a hobby. It's one of my biggest hobbies that I love doing, but it's not my identity, it's not my life.
Yeah,
But
I
this
get
guy,
that.
he loved it. And just I mean like it was his number one priority, maybe underneath some things like you. But it's up there. So I was happy that he did so well, and he had a harder Damascus than me, and he just did a good job. And I can't go back and say, I took it a little nonchalant from the beginning, like he was running around. I was thinking, in my head the first time I was here, this was a cakewalk. They were like, watch out, it gets hot in the forge. I was like, last time I was here, it was 115 degrees. I'm telling you, Mike, I didn't break a sweat on this next episode. I really didn't. I left and my shirt was just as dry as I went. The air conditioning's on. We only have two forges going. You got Big Blue, you got the press, you know, you
You're
got
like, you guys can
60,
make this hard.
yeah, you got
When's
60
the
belts.
challenge start,
Yeah,
folks?
You got 60 brand new belts hanging on the wall, so I grind for 4 minutes on one. I'm like, oh, there's a new. Why would I keep grinding on this old belt? These are all free. You're just getting new belts and just hogging stuff away, and
Which
like
we
it
did in
was
the first
like,
in our episode too. So
yeah, I'm telling you, it was a piece of cake. I go back and it's I always say it's forged in fire, not grinding fire. So I had that nickel go mine when I'm hitting on it. I know that nickel melts at a lot lower temperature than the metal, and I know I'm doing bad things when I'm doing it, and I'm like, well, it is what it is. I really didn't sweat at all. I had time where I got to tour New York because I ended up, the guy ended up beating me, and I had a great experience. I've seen everything you can see in New York. One of the producers who used to be on the show, um, one of my friends, Stav, he's the producer that came to my house and
nice,
filmed at my house. So I was able to catch up with him, and I spent a whole day with him. We went, I mean,
lucky.
and saw everything in New York. So
Did
I
you
was
get
able to
did
hang
you
out with
get
him
New
all
York
day.
pizza while you were there?
Oh, I all the best spots, the app where it tells you all best. I ate all of them, all of
Oh,
them.
oh, just rub it in
I
my
went
face,
everywhere.
why don't you?
I went everywhere. I went to
Nice.
Wall Street. I went and saw the Statue of Liberty. I went to a Yankees baseball game. I mean, I did absolutely everything you could do. And I was able to hang out with Stav that I haven't seen in 5 years. And I was able to share the gospel with him. And he's not a Christian, and he was going through some stuff in his life, and I was able to talk to him, and
Awesome.
like it was perfect. I wouldn't change it for the world. So fast forward, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 months. I don't know when it ended up airing. I was super excited to watch the show. I knew that I lost, and I had, like I said, if I went back in time, I would make it exactly how it was. I wouldn't go back and try to make it to the next round. Like the guy that I went up against lost to the next guy anyway, and he had a horrible time because I think his knife broke or his sword or whatever they made broke, and I remember seeing him in the hotel after that, after I spent the day in New York just like touring, and he was just like down in the dumps. And I'm like coming in all happy and stuff. And uh,
Uh,
but anyway, the show airs, and watching the show, and when you're out the first round, you aren't on TV for very long. You're there filming for a couple days, but what, you get 10 minutes maybe on TV. And
if that.
I'm just excited because I knew what I talked about. Like I said, I made it a point every interview to talk about that stuff. I was like, so there's no way they're not gonna do that. Well, I watched like the first part, and they don't say nothing about Africa. They don't say nothing about God, my faith. They don't say anything about
Hmm.
anything. And I was like, dang. So it goes to commercial, and I'm kind of like bummed, like, well, I'm still on for a little bit longer. So right before it goes to commercial, it like pans to me and it beeps. My back's turned to the camera and it beeps me like I cussed. And back in my day, don't get me wrong, I used to be a cussing fool. I cussed all the time. But there was that point in my life before I was on Forged in Fire the first time that I knew I never, like, I don't slip up. It's just something I don't do. I don't look down on people that do it. It's just something I don't do. It's something I used to do, and I don't do anymore. And it's part of like my testimony. So like almost you doing that hurts my testimony. And that's what kind of hurts me. So when I was on the show the first time, I don't know if you knew this, but they wanted me to speak on cussing the first time. They said, "Hell, when you broke that handle, you threw it and said a cuss word.
Hmm.
You're a Christian, and I wouldn't think you'd do that. Will you speak on that?" I was like, "No, I won't speak on it because I didn't do it." I
I
said,
remember this. I
if I
remember this.
slipped up, I would know because I don't do that. Like I
Uh,
would know I did." I said, "I'll tell you what, you bring that video in here and show me where I did it, and I will talk on it. But I didn't do it, and I know you guys will beep it and act like I did it if I talk on it. So I'm not going to talk on it." And I said, and you guys better not air me doing that or air it beeping because I didn't do it, and I don't want you guys saying that I did. Like I said, I don't think anything different if anybody does. It's just something I don't do.
mhm.
And they're like, all right, chill out. We won't do it. Well, this time on this episode, they didn't even ask me. And I know some of the same producers were from the first time, and I don't know if they remembered this or what, but it's going to commercial break and they beat me. And I was like, what in the world? I'm like, I didn't even nothing even bad happened there. I didn't
I
cuss.
was just
And
say,
I and
man,
I
it might
and
have
I
been
haven't
somebody.
cussed. Like I'm telling you, Mike, I don't like I used to I couldn't help it. I like F word every sentence. But
Hmm.
like in the last 10 years, ask my wife. I just it's just something that I do not do.
I was gonna say, I don't think you hardly cussed at all. I mean, I know I said "damn it," and when I got back home and after there, oh, you said you weren't gonna cuss on that show if you got on there, but you said "damn it." And like,
No. It's
I'm
just
like,
something
you're.
I don't do. Like you can ask my employees that work for me at work every day. I just don't do it. And then, like I said, it just doesn't happen. I don't slip when I'm out in the shop and I work and I smash my finger by myself. I don't do it. Like I don't do it. It's just something I don't do. So they bleep me, and I'm like, and I'm having a watch party at my business, and I got like everyone from my church, my youth group that I teach there, my pastor. I'm
Uh-oh.
like it's hurting
Everyone's
my
eyes on you.
testimony, but they know too. They know that's not John, but still, I feel like what's going on. So it comes back from the commercial and then it plays the scene and it doesn't bleep me. Like it bleeped me going into commercial, but then they played like the same scene. You know how they do that sometimes where they go to commercial and then they pick back up on that scene on the other side?
Yep.
Well, it didn't bleep me on the other side. I'm like, look, I'm like, I didn't cuss because it didn't bleep me that time. I said like dag nabbit or gosh darn it or something, but it didn't bleep me the second time. So then it goes a little bit longer and they bleep me again. And I'm like, what in the world? And it's always like when my back's turned or never like my face is there and they bleep me again. I'm like, what in the world's going on here? And I'm like, this is just, at this point, it's just dumb. So a little bit longer goes, they bleep me a third time. And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. I almost shut off the TV. I was so infuriated because I was like, absolutely not. I
They
did not
portrayed
need to.
you, and it seems like they're trying to portray you as somebody you weren't, and
Exactly.
all for
And
the hype of the show,
exactly.
and
And
I
that's
think
the
that's another
thing.
reason why Forge and Fire started doing a
Yeah.
nosedive after.
And I was so excited. It's what hurt me so bad. I was so excited to watch the show because I was like, they're gonna put me talking about Africa. They're gonna talk about, God, my faith, all this, my family. They didn't talk about, they didn't air any of that. And they bleeped me 3 times, which, like I said, it hurts me that they felt like they had to do that. And like the next day I shot off a bunch of emails like you got like but like the show is over then so they don't have their emails anymore. So I'm like texting people that I know. Like I know the host of the show. I'm like texting him like, "Hey, how do I get a hold of these people?" And he's like the show's kind of over like you probably won't get a hold of these people. And I was like, "This is ridiculous." Like
That's too
and people
bad.
don't understand it like I said my testimony is that I used to be this person, and God, by God's grace, I tried to quit cussing so many times. I tried to quit doing these things so many times, but God, through God, I was able to do this. Well, then you go back and bleep me, and I'm like, well, that just everything that I say that God's changed my life, it acts like it's that never happened, and it just it hurt me because I wanted to go on Forge and Fire to talk about that and to share my testimony and to talk about Africa, but they changed that narrative and made it where it's nothing. They didn't let me talk about God at all. But here we're gonna have you cussing. So that's why I always said if I was ever asked to go back on the show again, which it's over, but if I were to ever have an experience to go on something like that again, I would have a list of demands and or I just wouldn't do it. Like that's not worth it to me to it was embarrassing to what they did. And like when people ask, weren't you on Fortune 5? I'm like, yeah, I was on season 5, episode 37. They're like, weren't you on another? I'm like, ah, don't watch that one. It's terrible.
I don't blame you. And and then I can't say I've got a very good mouth, but when I'm recording or doing something live, I work hard not to cuss. But if I'm out there by myself, trust me, that I say the F word quite. often. I'm a used to be a truck driver, and I know that's no excuse.
Yeah, I used to work for the railroad. I know all about it, but like I said,
Um,
it's just something that I don't. And like I said, it doesn't bother me when other people do it. People don't do it a lot around me because they know I don't do it, but it is what it is.
and I started a show called Beat the Smith, and we did 3 episodes, and now we're gearing it to something else. Matter of fact, my daughter, she was in the third episode. She beat me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you'll have to go. You can check that on my American Bladesmith channel, where this will be on YouTube as well. You want to check
Oh,
that.
so it's this on YouTube. So that's
Yep,
on
it's all on
YouTube.
YouTube, a
Oh,
YouTube
I'll for sure
series.
check it out.
Where we changed the
How do
original.
you judge if she beats you or not? How did that judge?
It was a butter knife, and my butter knife was not a butter knife. I called it a dual purpose butter knife. You can gut a buck and butter your biscuit too, by golly. Uh,
Yeah,
but mine was more of a drop point hunter, and she was more
yeah,
a butter knife shape. So
yeah. Yeah,
I want to.
I share. I don't know if you saw, but I shared a video the other night on Facebook, and the Duck Dynasty. They kind of went through the same thing with the cussing stuff. They they were bleeping them, and they kind of reach out to the producers and like say, "Why are you doing this?" I said, "Well, it adds dramatic effect," and they're like, "But that's not who we
That's
are
not
or
who
what
we
we do."
are, and that
And,
you know that
there's so much fine print on the stuff that you sign that they can do what they want and whatever, and everyone just signs it and doesn't really think of it, but I don't know.
it's like
Some
if I'm
stuff,
going to be on a show, please represent me who I really am and such like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
know for a fact. Other than I said, damn it, trust me, there's times in my head I'm screaming in my head, shut up, don't bite your tongue. But I know we've all talked
Which
about,
I
hey,
like the guy I was going up against. I don't think they bleeped him at all, and he was like, I mean, he didn't cuss a bunch, but he was cussing in there. Like they didn't bleep him at all, and the guy that didn't, you're just gonna bleep him a bunch. I know there's something behind that because the producer that was my personal producer on our episode, the guy that sits in that room and
mm-hmm,
talks questions with you. That's the one that said I cussed last time, and he ended up being the executive producer when I went back. So he was the big dog. And
ah,
I don't know. I may.
he must have had a chip on his shoulder for you, I guess.
I don't know. I in my head, I can't think that there's not something to do with it, but it may have nothing to do with it. But in my head, I'm like, well, he got me back, didn't he?
Yeah. But hey, you know what? It don't matter because you got the witness to a young man who needed it in the time, and hopefully he's doing good. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's what the win right there is.
I need to reach back out. Reach back out to him. I haven't talked to him in a while. See how he's doing.
But yeah, it was a fun experience. It's awesome to see what you're going to do. I wish I like I said, I know you've been busy, so I try not to bug you guys. Plus, we're hour different times here. So but yeah, it's awesome to see your trips to Africa. You're teaching the businesses and the ministry you're starting, and I'm really, really liking uh, how you want to come back home here and bring some of the charity here with the youth and working with young men, such like that. And that's definitely something with this American Bladesmith show that I want to do on YouTube. We're self-filming it. If you go watch the first 3 episodes of Beat the Smith, please bear with it because it's a bunch of guys that don't know how to do cameras. We're doing our own camera stuff. The second episode, the audio and the video's off just a little bit. Um,
So
we're gonna
are
hardly.
you competing against these? It's you competing against these people every time?
Yes, it's guys who took the knife class that are makers themselves. Sam, I'm sure you've seen him on my page here. He took a knife class here about 4 years ago. We've become fast friends since. He comes down to the shop, helps me out, get ready for shows. We competed. We're using the money. The knife that wins gets auctioned off. We're doing one right now. We're doing. I thought I had a coin in here. A buddy of mine, his son's over in England, learning how to become a professional footballer, as they call them, soccer.
Oh yeah.
I was like, football? No, not
That's what they call
soccer.
it in Africa too. Uganda, they call it football.
Yep. And soccer here in the States. I think it's the only place they call it soccer.
Yeah.
But
Because we
he's over
have the
there.
real because we have the real football.
Yeah,
So
yep.
they call it soccer here.
Well, real ball would be rugby. I mean, that there's people still playing rugby today. It's like, you guys are nuts. No, thank you. Um, but I think it's where you're getting where you're going, and if I can get my show, the idea behind my show is basically kind of like a little bit of Duck Dynasty meets Fast and Loud kind of thing. Build, really cool build, but I want to show after Forge and Fire, I heard a lot of people talking, hey, we'd like to see a little bit more of the knife making, a little more of the education. So I'm going to try to do that. We're going to roll in, still do the competition like Beat the Smith, but we're going to call it, like American Bladesmith, Smith versus Smith. So, um, and I've got to sit down and start planning episodes out, and I want to start filming a few episode every other month and such.
So if
Um,
I look it up on YouTube, do I type in Beat the Smith?
you can put Beat the Smith or look up the American Bladesmith YouTube channel. So I'll
American.
send you a link.
Okay.
So it'll make it easier. You can watch first, second, and again, please bear with it. It is rough. We are very amateur, but our friend Brad, he put everything together for us. It kind of
So
pulled
how
it.
many episodes of this do you have now, Behind the Anvil or whatever?
Behind the Anvil, this will be number 15 or 16.
Oh,
So
cool.
I've kind of been slacking off because I'm booked out clear almost into November. I kick one out a month and I kind of slacking off, so I need to get back on it. And
So
when
how soon will this one air?
this will probably air. Let me look at my. I gotta look at calendars because my brain probably 27th or the 3rd of November.
Okay, cool.
So I'm gonna,
You
I'm
got
gonna,
some
I'm
stuff
gonna
there.
after this, I'm gonna get back on Tim and say, hey Tim, when I got John on, went out of order here, but we're gonna get John on and maybe we get Jay and here's some more testimony and such like that. But once
Yeah,
I
Jay.
get American Bladesmith going and such, I'd love to come out and travel and film and it is centered around bladesmithing and such like that. But I want to kind of show, I want to show what your testimony is, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I
We can
want
do a beat the Smiths over here, and I could beat you again.
Yeah, bring it on, good guy.
Oh, don't
We can
make
do that.
you
We
don't
can
want
do
me to
American
like
Blade,
mine won't fit on the screen here.
right? Well, as long as you don't shave the chest, okay?
Oh, no promises. That's my
Unless you
go-to.
put American Bladesmith in the back of your
Hey,
Anvil.
I gotta add space. You might have to pay for that, but I can do that.
Oh Lord, watching Will
Selling
go.
advertisements on my back.
There you go. Oh Lord. Hey, do you remember back in our episode when the final round, how besides Will getting really weirded out? Sorry, Will, I gotta put this out there. He hates watermelon. He was gagging. Do you don't remember this? I do.
No.
The watermelon. He's like, ew, watermelon. There's a
Oh, when they were doing our
watermelon
axe through
chop.
the
Yep.
Bardiche through the watermelon.
Yep. He's over there. He hates. He can't stand. He's like, I could be arms deep in bloods and guts on a human torso, putting them back together. But
I think I
watermelon.
remember that now. Yeah.
Like I said, I got a weird memory. I can remember.
Man, you had Doug sweating with your Bardiche. I think it was like 30 pounds, wasn't it?
Not that heavy. It started off at 13, and I drilled enough holes to get it down to 11. I think you said yours weighed in about 7, 8.
Yeah, mine was I think close to half of what yours weighed.
Too bad you couldn't get that back now. I wonder what happened to all those
I don't know. They probably scrapped them or something dumb. I
but
remember Doug's glasses when he turned
you
around
could
between
see
you.
it.
They're all fogged up and he's breathing hard.
He's like, God, and I wish they would have used it, but they didn't. I says, God, Doug, you're breathing hard over there, kind of sweaty. He says, yeah, this thing's 11, goes off 11 pounds and da da da. It's like, and I'm like, well, now you know, like that first round out there in that hot sun, and you guys over there in your little shaded tree. And he looks at
Yeah.
looks at the Bardiche, looks at the pig, looks at me and goes, "Tu sais, sure." And I'm like,
Yeah. That's what in the watermelon test I was thinking, man, Mike's is gonna go right. I mean, yours so heavy, if it didn't cut him, it was just gonna smash them
right
all.
into him.
Like
Um,
yours is I knew yours was gonna test good. On that test, mine kind of,
yep, it
went
flicked it
out
off right
because it
at
was a
the
little
end.
lighter and it kind of wink.
And I got a lot after that. Everybody's like, "That's BS. You got more watermelon than him. You should have won that show. You should have." If I would have probably been equal weight, maybe so. But
Yeah.
I was happy how it turned out. I'm it. it seemed like all like a dream to that point. I mean, I didn't think I was going to make it that far. No way on a broken blade.
Yeah.
It was an awesome time, but I said we're getting about an hour and a half here. It looks like you're getting kind of burned out, but before we get really tune off here, I love the TV in the background.
Oh, the little TV?
Yep, that is cool. Retro. Does
Yeah.
it work?
I don't know. I haven't really plugged in it. I got a bunch of antiques in here.
That's awesome. That's a
It's kind
cool
of a
TV.
man cave. I got a double-barreled shotgun there, and then that was my son over here. It was when he was born. He's got a little anvil. Took his picture with when he was
That's cool. I
born.
remember you posting that.
Yeah,
I've got a
I got a
section of my
bunch of
house. I'm actually gonna set up a studio. I got to lower the ceiling, lower the ceiling a little bit, and put me some studio lights. Put everything in, so I can put everything on my reloading bench. Redo my reloading bench a little bit, but it's a work in
Yeah, I got a
progress.
reloading area over there, and I do my leather work for my knives down here, and got my gun safe and all my deer hanging on the wall, and kind of man
I
cave
like
type.
it. My house is definitely a bachelor's house. I've got custody of my daughter right now. She's living with me. That's a long story. We don't need to talk about it on here, but I've had to learn how to live with somebody else again.
Yeah.
She's like, Dad, I'm going to change the paint in the house, so that's fine.
Well,
It
at least
needs,
she likes the hobby that you like, making knives. That's
yeah. I
cool.
mean,
That's
she's got her
great.
own thing. She's very talented. She's drawing. She can crochet. Something I've
Yeah.
never been able to pick up. And like, how do you make this knot? Like, I tried it, got about this far into it. I said, you know what, this ain't for me. Gone.
Yeah.
But let's wrap this up here. And John, if you would, just share a little bit about the gospel and Jesus Christ. So if you, I want to give you that platform on here. Sounds like something you weren't able to do on Forging Fire, which is a shame, which is their loss. Um,
Yeah.
I lost a lot of people, but I'm I probably got a little show, but I hope it makes a big impact. So I'm going to turn over the next 5 minutes to you. Would you please go ahead and give us a little, if you would? Sorry, putting you on the floor, on the
Oh,
spot.
you're good. I didn't know you. Any chance I can have to share the gospel, I will. So it's kind of cool. You bring that up, and last weekend I was able to officiate my first wedding. So my sister-in-law got married, and in Missouri you just have to be ordained with a clergy. So I'm an ordained deacon, so I'm able to do weddings and stuff. And you just ask me now, it makes me think about that. And you know, I would say like being a Christian to me, it's like, sometimes there's some morals and stuff that you don't understand, like how the world is now. Like especially you mentioned Charlie Kirk and the stuff that's happened, and and you think about marriage, and you think about being a father, and you think about being a husband. A lot of those things are hard things to do. And people are getting divorced nowadays a lot. People are killing each other. People are doing all these things. And I try to think, why are people doing this? Why are people doing that? But I can't really ever understand why people do those things. How do people get divorced? Like that's just, I know you've been divorced, Mike. I don't want to step on your
No,
toes
no,
or
don't
anything.
worry. Go ahead. Don't it.
But
You know
you
the story
know,
behind that. So
people people don't have anything to fall back on. Like I don't, I'm not, I don't, I'll never get divorced because I made a sacred covenant with my wife and God saying that I promise till death does us part. I made that promise to you, and I made that promise to God that I will protect you and provide for you the rest of my life. And and people go and kill someone because of they're talking about their faith. Like I made a covenant with God that I will not kill, I will not murder, I will not commit. Those are all things that, in my mind, I don't understand how people can do it. 'Cause just but what I don't share with those people is I share that my faith in Christ and my beliefs are different than those people. And I think that's one thing with the gospel when you start living that way, and the good news of the gospel is come as you are, doesn't matter who you are. Jesus came, he lived a perfect life, he died on the cross for our sins. So like God lived a sinless life. He didn't die on the cross because he did something bad and for his sins. He God made a promise that he was going to send his son and he's going to die on the cross, and that was fulfilled. And no matter who you are, your past, if you believe that that happened and God did that for your sins, you will be saved and you're going to go to heaven. So, we try to follow God as our example of what we do. And and like when I shared the wedding, like you have to understand that you're making that covenant with just more than just that person, you're making with God. And to be able to live that life, you can't be selfish. You have to put God first and you have to put your family first. And a lot of those people that are killing people, they aren't putting God first or other people first. People are getting divorced, they aren't putting those people first or God first. So that's why I think it's so important to think about those things like Charlie shared and the things that he did to be able to see you're able to see the gospel, see it in effect. And once you get saved, like I said, come as you are, and then you have the sanctification aspect of it later where your life's changing. You're not changing, God's changing that. Like I said, shared with me cussing. There was many times in my life where I tried to do it, but something changed in my life where it's just not a thing that I do anymore. And you know, people don't have hope. Like I have a friend right now that's going through a divorce and he's not a Christian. And I'm like, I can't help you. You can't help you because like a lot of these people are getting divorced. They're like, hey, the wife might say to the husband, hey, we need to go get some counseling. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, what do you mean you're going to do that? Your marriage isn't that important for you to go try to get some help? Are you that selfish or that self-centered to not do that one little thing to help your marriage to to make it go on? And then it just I can't relay what you have to relay to those people. The only way you're going to get through this is with God. Because if you put God at the center of your marriage or the center of everything you do, your morals change and your principles change to be aligned with what we were supposed to be, you know. And it's just so important. And I don't know, it's changed my life for the better, and to see struggles that people go through, I can honestly say I don't go through those. A lot of them. I mean, of course we go through struggles, but when I get home, I mean, I love my wife. She loves me. She helps me. I help her. That's one of the things I said at the during the wedding is like when she's going through struggles, I'm going through struggles. When she's going through happy times, I'm going through happy times. We share those things together. When she says, "Hey, will you grab me a something out of the kitchen?" I don't say, "You have 2 feet, do it yourself." We're here to help each other and serve each other, and those are the principles God left for us in the Bible and through His Word and through His testimony that we can follow and change our lives. And it's hard to explain to people until you have it. And everyone can have it, like that's part of the gospel. And you can't explain your life and how much you've changed until you do it. So I just try to encourage everybody I can to, look into it, ask the questions. Um, everybody knows someone's a Christian that goes to church. Everyone's willing to answer any questions, but I mean, you know, I don't know. I want everyone I know to go to heaven and have spend that eternal life with Christ. And um that's what you can do is just go around and try to help people. And that's what I try to do in Africa too. Try to get those guys on the right track, being like, hey, there is a plan for how you're supposed to do this, and it's in the Bible. And you're supposed to be able to support your family, and you're supposed to be able to and help and do these things and be a good father to raise them to do the right thing too. And I don't know. That's kind of my quick short story of it. But like I said, I wasn't totally prepared for the question, but I'll
I was
share.
gonna pull. I had a loaded gun there for a while. I was gonna pull it on you before we even got to your
Well,
shit.
it's like marriage is a big one. Like it's you have to be evenly yoked, and I've even figured that out with my business and my business partners. Like I have a couple of business partners, and they're Christians, and it's hard to have the same morals if you don't share that. Like I try to be I am an honest business person, and I know my fellow Christian men that I'm business partners with, they are too. I had a business partner before that did some lying and maybe some stealing and some stuff, and we didn't line up morally, and I had to end up splitting ways with him. I said, "Sorry, I'll be your friend. I'll try to help you any way I can, but I can't be your business partner. I can't do that. And it's just one of those things that, you figure out the older you get and the more life you go through, some of those things, but
Oh
yeah.
yeah, just wait till you hit 40. You really start seeing things a little bit more, especially a little more gray hair.
Yeah. But I mean, did I kind of answer or
Yeah, you were
I mean, do you have
right on the
anything
money,
that
and
you're wanting me to share more or any questions about any of that or anything?
I think we got it on. Well, I am going to ask you to close this out with a closing prayer, and then we'll kind of sign off. And
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
is there anything that, any words of wisdom you want to share before we do a prayer? Anything, um, just kind of what I try to call it, our words of wisdom kind of thing. So if you
Yeah.
want,
I mean, I would say the things I've done in my life, prioritize your time well because we all get busy and we have kids that are growing up and we have things, but I make it a point to prioritize the things that I do and God, my faith is number one. My wife is number two. My kids are number three. My job and the other things I do fall after, so make sure you prioritize time for God daily. Make sure you prioritize time with your wife daily. And then your kids, those are all things that you need to be able to prioritize. Before a long time ago, I got some of those priorities out of whack. But make sure you do those things. Like make sure you prioritize. You're wanting to do a podcast, you're wanting to do this, you want to do that, you're
right,
wanting
lot of
and
iron
all
on
that can
fire.
happen, but sometimes you realize like, hey, I'm spending too much time doing this and like or I'm spending too much time on my phone scrolling and I'm saying that I don't have time to read the Bible or go to church or do these things, but I'm spending an hour or two a day scrolling through Facebook or doing whatever, or I don't have time to sit and talk to my wife, but I'm doing this or I'm podcasting and I don't have time to spend with my daughter, or I'm editing. Well, pay someone to do your editing, or that's what I've become doing over time. Like, I still do a lot of stuff, but I have people that I have that work for me or do things that I'm able to still prioritize decently well. I can always do better, but um,
That's
I
awesome.
that's why I encourage people stay busy, stay doing the things you do, but prioritize your time well and remember the things that are important because you aren't going to get that time back. Your kids are only going to be three one time and six one time and one
And
time.
believe me, there's times, and I've shared this story with you too, that there might be a time you won't be able to see your kid or hug him
Yep.
or everything else.
Yep.
And
I think we're going to
I'm
start building the house next year, and it's probably not the best time financially, probably for me to do that. I mean, it'll be all right, but I think about those things like, well, what if something happens 3 years from now and I never do that? My kids don't get to experience that, and it's
and
one of those
that's
things. Just bite the bullet and do it.
Yep, and that's why I started the podcast. Is like if I don't start, like I said, I've been kicking down the road for a couple of years. I was like, you know what? We're just gonna do it. We're gonna get everything set up. My buddies told me, hey, do this, go here, do this, do. Boom, done. And here we are. We're 13, 14 episodes deep, and I'm loving it. It's and after the Charlie Kirk thing, he's like, I think I'm going to use this to kind of help spread the gospel as much as I can. Behind the Anvil. I kind of, we talk about knives and such like that, but I want to share a little bit about me, what goes on behind the anvil, and this is one of it. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
awesome.
John, I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing more of what's going on with all your stuff, your charities, and everything you're doing with Bama Forge, and hopefully, maybe Lord willing, I'll be able to join you guys over there. I
Yeah,
don't know how much of what I could offer to teach, but I guess the little prayer on that was to
man, even if you, it's just a good experience to go and see that. I feel like everybody needs to go see that part of the world sometime, and
get out
even
of
if
our
you don't,
little,
even if you don't do much change in there, it does change into you, and
then
it's
that's what
cool.
matters.
Yeah.
John, would you lead us out with prayer and then we'll sign off here and let you get to bed because I think you're going to start falling asleep because you've been a lot busier than I am.
I'm all right. But
So,
yeah, I would love to close some prayer. So,
all right.
dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for the time we had this evening getting to talk and talk about you and all the things we've been doing. I just thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet these men, Tim and Mike and Ken, and how much it's changed my life in these last few years. I thank you for the opportunity you've given me to go and do the things I have been able to do in Africa and how much it's changed my life. And I just pray for Mike and the things that he's doing that, like he said, he can people can listen to these episodes and hear the things we talked about tonight and get them thinking for your glory, Lord, and just that maybe he can change some lives in these things that he's doing and be able to help young people. I know he talked about doing classes and things like that. I just pray that um, those can happen, those can go well, and the things he talks about, I pray that those can come to fruition and the things that he's doing. I just pray for um, our days ahead. I prayed for Hawthorne Forge Foundation that you can um, help us change these young men to become real men and follow the principles that you've left for us, Lord, and becoming good husbands, fathers, community members. And I pray that we can teach these guys skills that will last them the rest of their lives and that they can hand down, Lord. Just be with Mike and his family and everyone listening to this. I just send a special prayer that they can hear the gospel and just come to you, Lord, and have eternal life with you. We love you. Forgive us when we fail you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, John, for that prayer. If there's any time that something comes up that you want to share and you want to focus on, please let me know. We'll jump on, record another episode, and if we need to,
Yeah.
we could drop it early.
Yeah,
So,
and with the stuff I talked about, if anyone's interested in the Bamba Forge
yes.
stuff, or if they're interested in Hawthorne Forge Foundation, the Reckoning, um, I mean, we just love to any support from anybody, any
Where,
way that you
let's send
can.
them, tell us a little bit of where they can find all that information and
So
everything else.
I would say, I mean, I can get anyone in touch with anything, so I don't mind. You can reach out to me on Facebook. I have Hawthorne Forge. I have John Wigger. You can look me up on there. You can find me. And then my email is also johnwigger33@gmail.com. If you have any questions about any of the things we talked about today, from Hawthorne Forge Foundation, the Reckoning to the Gospel, and got any questions, I mean, I check my email every day and I'll see it go through. So I don't mind the emails or whatever. So shoot me an email and I can point you in a direction of anything. So, like I said,
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm going to sign off here. Just stay with us right after we're done recording here. But so, thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining us. Please share this out. Behind the Anvil, available on all your podcast platforms, also on YouTube on the American Bladesmith channel. As we say in the shop, stay sharp, America, and God bless. And Jesus Christ is Lord.